AJ Styles comes full circle. All this and more on this review of TNA Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory. So the first match on the card was the pre-show match before Bound for Glory. It was a tag team gauntlet match where the winner becomes the number one contenders. It was Daniels and Kaz, Joseph Park and Eric Young, Bromance, and Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez. And the winner was the Bromance. And I thought the match itself was actually not half bad. It was really a good kickoff match, to get the people ready to watch Bound for Glory. And with that said, when they were in the tag team match with James Storm and Gunner, I thought that tag team match was actually better than I expected it was going to be. There was actually, really good tag team wrestling moments in that match, especially one moment where the Gunner had the opponent and James Storm nailed the closing time along with Gunner, planting their opponent. That move was absolutely incredible. And overall, it was it was actually a good match. Like I said, it was better than I expected it was going to be. And what came out of it was that the Bromans are the new TNA Tag Team Champions. I thought it was actually a good way to, let the audience know who the Tag Team Champions are, because throughout the last few weeks and months of TNA, sometimes I forgot that James Storm and Gunner were the Tag Team Champions, and that's not a good sign. So I like that, we have new Tag Team Champions because, it was something that it was needed for the division. And also, it gives a possible storyline for James Storm and Gunner to break up and become singles competitors. I think that Gunner was actually a little bit better than he usually is on the show. And I think, there's going to be a point in time in his career where he needs a push as a singles competitor, and I think splitting him up with James Storm and putting him in a rivalry with him would probably be the logical thing to do for Gunner. Also, we saw ODB versus Gail Kim and Brooke for the Knockouts Championship in a triple threat match. And this was a match that, going into Bound for Glory, I thought, I'm not really looking forward to seeing this. It was just, hardly any build-up to anything. There was more build-up to Lady Tapa, the mystery of who will she attack next. And what happened at the end in this match was that, there was a moment where ODB lifted up Brooke and Gail. I thought that moment was really good for ODB. I'm glad she had her moment in the match. And after that, we saw Lady Tapa come out and just destroy ODB. She almost hit the ring, and when she saw Brooke, she powerbombed Brooke while Lady Tapa was outside the ring and Brooke was inside the ring. I thought, little things like that, were really creative on the part of TNA, as well as that match. And what happened was that Gail Kim is the new Knockouts Champion, pinning Brooke Tessmacher. And shortly after the match, Lady Tapa comes in the ring. You almost think, okay, she's going to attack the champion because she's been, making statements since her return on TNA. And I like that little swerve where she gives Gail the Knockouts Champion and raises her hand. And it's like, okay, we see this new alliance forming. It's Gail Kim and Lady Tapa. Lady Tapa will be Gail's bodyguard, and Gail Kim is the new Knockouts champ. I thought that Gail winning the championship was the right way to go, because Gail is one of the all-around great female wrestlers in any wrestling company, and congratulations to Gail and that swerve with Lady Tapa. And I thought, the outcome of that was almost in a way unexpected because, we saw Lady Tapa, like I said, making her statements. We don't know what's going to happen with her. And I thought that little swerve was actually, kind of, made that match worth, the $39.99 that I paid for as well. The show kicked off with Austin Aries, Manic, Sabin, Jeff Hardy, Samoa Joe in the Ultimate X match for the X Division Championship. I thought, it could have been a better match, The only nitpicking thing I didn't like about that match was that, the ladder was introduced into the match. I thought that took away the idea of Ultimate X, of the competitors climbing up to go through the cables to get the title. Instead, they used a ladder, and it just felt like a ladder match, really. And I thought, like I said, that took away from the match. There were also certain spots where it felt a little off, but it was still a good high-flying action match. So, I'm a little 50-50 split on that as well. And also on the show, we saw Bobby Roode versus Kurt Angle. I thought that match was the match of the night. That match stole the show on Bound for Glory. And I thought the way it ended was a little weird because we saw Bobby Roode, take the Angle slam off the top rope, and Kurt Angle didn't capitalize. We saw Kurt Angle kind of like fall, hit his head really hard on the mat, and Bobby Roode capitalized and got the win. I thought it was a little weird, but the match itself was absolutely incredible, and it kind of makes sense as well because Bobby Roode is the fresher guy out of the two going into Bound for Glory. It seemed that way, in my opinion. And before that match took place, we saw Kurt Angle about to be inducted into the Hall of Fame by Sting, only to have Kurt Angle refuse the Hall of Fame acceptance from TNA. And I'm not sure what direction they're going to go for Kurt Angle. It almost feels like this is a write-off for Kurt Angle in a way, but it can also be, conceived as a way that Kurt Angle said that I was in rehab without saying those actual words. So it just feels a little weird that Kurt Angle refused to be inducted into the Hall of Fame by TNA, because who wouldn't? Now, what wrestler really on TNA wouldn't accept the award to going into the Hall of Fame? That's the be-all, end-all for any guy who's in the wrestling company, is to go into the Hall of Fame, and for someone to refuse that, it just feels weird, it's just hard to explain. I guess, if you're Kurt Angle, you probably say, okay, I can understand that, but when you're an outside observer looking in, it just feels off. Also, we saw Sting and Magnus go one-on-one, and I like the little things that happen. I like Magnus mocking Sting's call out to the fans, as well as the Stinger Splash and other moves, etc. The only nitpicking thing that I have an issue with is how Sting applies some moves like the Scorpion Deathlock. The way he stands up, he used to execute that move pretty well, but it seems like Sting is getting to that point in his career where he really shouldn't wrestle anymore. Only on the occasion I think Sting should wrestle, like Bound for Glory, and not other, the matches on TNA week after week, which luckily hasn't been happening. But, when it comes to Sting himself, He should be used just as a the special guest appearance in a match for him to wrestle. It should be build up as a something special, something out of the ordinary to happen. And I think that because the Sting really doesn't get that way on TNA. I think he could have put on a better performance than he did at Bound for Glory, but the overall match was not half bad. And the main event was Bully Ray versus AJ Styles for the World Heavyweight Championship. I thought that match was absolutely incredible. It was a good way to end the show. It was a real emotional roller coaster ride as well. You had all the elements. You had AJ Styles, Bully Ray, Dixie Carter, Aces and Eights. Even Earl Hebner kind of came full circle as well when he refused not to count AJ Styles when he had Bully Ray pinned because Dixie told Earl Hebner not to count to 3, and he done it anyway. So it was actually one of those cool moments, just to see Earl Hebner in that situation, based on what happened along those years ago and that Montreal screw job involving Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. I thought, just that little thing was pretty good on the part of TNA, and that 450 splash, AJ laid out. He almost got Bully Ray, but he met the table instead. I actually jumped out of my seat and said, "Holy shit!" when AJ went through that table out off that 450. And there was, you seen stuff on that table. You seen some sort of headset or something. And then he just went all the way down and crashed, and things just flying everywhere. The table breaks. Absolutely incredible. And I like, Bully Ray doing the same thing that he done at Slammiversary, where he cut the rope, the mat to expose the wood in the ring. Great. Absolutely great. And AJ Styles is the new World Heavyweight Champion. He comes full circle, and he celebrates his victory in the audience. And the show last night, absolutely incredible. I would watch it again if given the opportunity. Also at Bound for Glory, we saw Christopher Daniels and Kazarian come out after their number one contenders match at Bound for Glory and stated their grievances about why they should have won their tag team match, only to have Eric Young come out as well as Abyss. And like I said before, we always need to have that, special occasion for that special someone to come out. Abyss was that great moment. I thought that moment was absolutely really well done. And I like to see where this is going to go between Eric Young and Abyss, because, they had a little confrontation there as well. So I'd like to see where that leads to on TNA Impact Wrestling. And also we saw the debut of Ethan in a jobber match, and I thought that was not the right way for someone to debut. I think that if Ethan made a bigger statement on the show, it would have been perfect, but it just really fell flat, and I really don't understand. TNA had the opportunity to debut someone on their biggest show of the year, only to have a match with a nobody. And I really don't understand why that happened at Bound for Glory. They could have done that on the show after TNA, because of the way they done it at Bound for Glory. So I don't understand the logic behind Ethan's debut. Sorry. But Bound for Glory, the pay-per-view itself, was absolutely incredible. I have to give it a solid 8 out of 10, with only a little nitpicking moments I thought were a little off, but overall, the show was absolutely great. And there you have it. That was my review of TNA's Bound for Glory for the MRB Wrestling Review Show. I'm your co-host, Mike McRock Wilson. Get plenty of rest and always do your best.